Welcome to the Igniting the CEO Within podcast, where we interview successful, high-level professionals to discover lessons they've learned throughout their career that can help ignite that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge, and I'll be your host for the next 15 minutes or so. Our show is sponsored by Quaid, a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. Quaid has developed Launchpad, which offers an opportunity for experienced fractional executives to become licensed circle directors. After completing the Launchpad program, you'll lead your own peer advisory circles, helping other CEOs and entrepreneurs excel in their professional and personal lives while providing a community of accountability, challenge, and support. If you'd like to learn more, go to quaidcircle.com. Super excited to hang out today with Monty Fowler. He is the co-founder and managing partner of Aspire 6 out of Chicago. Monty, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mark. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this will be a lot of fun. Hey, look, you have had a really amazing career, and throughout that time, and especially in what you do today, you get exposed to a lot of different leaders. And I'd love your insight as to what's a trait or two that separates the excellent ones from the not from the others.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the distinct privilege of working with some amazing founders across my 35 plus year career. I've spent most of my time working at 9 different startups since 1999. So I understand the founder mindset. And what I look for is two things. One, founders who understand that culture is the most important asset that a company has. And they spend significant time and energy crafting and protecting the culture of the company. The second thing I look for is high integrity people. And by that, I mean somebody who is not just honest, that I think is table stakes in business at least, but I look for somebody who is a fully integrated person, somebody who is the same at work, at home, on the pitch with their friends, playing soccer, out in a corporate event or hosting a client. They are the same person that shows up every single time. That's the raw ingredients that I look for that separate the truly great founders who get great results from their people and their companies versus the ones that seem to struggle continuously, right?
Yeah, I like both of those. The second one I call unapologetically authentic, right? That people who understand who they are and love it and feel it. I want to talk about the culture thing especially from with your background with all the different startups that you've come through. That the intentional culture that you build has to evolve over time, because this is my thought, and I'd love your thoughts on it. When you're a startup, you as the founder and leader are doing everything, and how do you coach people, or how have you seen the successful people that start from founder doing everything? How do they start to build that culture so that they can recruit a team that can ultimately, remove them from doing everything?
Yeah. So culture is really 3 things that come together in a unique way. It's mission, vision, and values, right? So the mission is, what are we here to do, right? Are we building a product? Do we have a service? Whatever the thing is that we're trying to do as a commercial entity. The vision is, what do we have in our DNA as a company and as a group of people that's different, and that we're betting the marketplace will view as valuable in order for them to select us over our competitors. So that vision is what is going to communicate to the world, you should hang with us, right? Not these other guys, right? Yeah. And that vision has to be clearly articulated. It needs to be meaningful. It needs to be impactful, all of that. But then the last is the values. And the values are typically a direct reflection of the internal personal values of whoever the founder is, right? Now, I've worked primarily in VC-funded startups where, it was 2 or 3 people, in a dorm room or in an apartment or a garage that had a great idea. They voted with their own time, talent, and money to build something that was good enough to get other people to say, hey, we'll write you a check and we want to see what you can do with that thing. So the values that those founders bring to the table is usually what kind of sets the foundation for what you're going to build in terms of culture in the company. And then it's the job of each one of those people and everybody that they hire to select people who match or will enhance the culture. And that's where the evolution comes from, right? Is that every new person that you bring into the organization has a subtly different take on that mission, vision, and values, and is going to bring their own interpretation, their own life experience, their own capabilities, preferences, and struggles to the party. And that over time will create a completely unique culture. And I've been preaching this for 25 years, is that culture is the only thing your competitors cannot replicate, because to do it, they would need to steal all of your people. And even if they took all of your people, they would be adding your people to their people, which would yield something different than the culture they're aiming for, right? So culture to me is one of the key attributes that, unfortunately, I would say half of the founders that I've worked for either didn't pay attention to it enough from the beginning or lost their focus on it somewhere along the journey to, Series C, Series D, or an IPO. And that's just the gravity of the marketplace, right? Or the broken world we live in. It pulls even the best of people away from their center. And, you end up with something other than what you intended sometimes,
Yeah. So how do you combat that?
Well, again, I think it has to, first and foremost, you have to be intentional. So culture has to be one of your strategic pillars. And it has to be reinforced for sure across the C-suite. You definitely, especially once you get to a certain size, I would say 50, 70 employees, you need to have somebody whose full-time job is taking care of the people. And that's usually embodied in a people team or an HR team, depending on what you want to call it. But having a leader in that function who understands the strategic value of culture and is doing everything in their power to protect it, extend it, and evolve it through the hiring process, through the onboarding process, through the learning process and development process of the teams that are already there, then you can do well with culture. But some companies don't pay that much attention to it, and it's to their own peril, right?
Yeah.
Because every problem that manifests inside of a company can always be traced back to a person, unless a machine breaks. But even then, somebody didn't do some maintenance or somebody didn't set it up right or whatever. Usually machines don't break just because, typically.
Yeah. But we'll talk a little bit more about Aspire 6 in a little bit. But,
Sure.
One of the things that you're built to do, I believe, is help elevate that founder out of, day-to-day task or having their hands in things that they're not adding their most value at, right? Like that's one of the things we always talk about in a Quaid circle is if you're the founder, if you're the CEO, you need to figure out where you add the most value. And that's rarely in, and I'm minimizing things, but writing checks or making every hire or doing all those types of things. How do you continue to educate folks to get to that level of, hey, yeah, it's cool. Yes, you can absolutely do the month end close, but that's not the best use of your time. That's not where you're most valuable to your company.
One of the first things I do when I meet a new CEO or founder or owner is I want to look at their calendar. It's like, hey, show me your calendar. And I'm looking for a couple of signals that are going to tell me who I'm dealing with, right? First and foremost, if their time isn't time blocked, like if they don't have chunks of time reserved in their calendar for the stuff that they need to do as a CEO or an owner, that's a red flag. If I see no free time in their calendar, every minute is booked, sometimes double and triple booked. I mean, my previous CEO, two companies ago, that was the reality for my CEO. He didn't have control over his calendar. People were just adding him to meetings, calls, and stuff. And the guy didn't have 5 minutes to go to the bathroom. That's unhealthy. Nobody can be successful in that type of a, what I call blender environment, where every day you don't know what's happening. You're just beholden to your schedule, your calendar. The second thing I ask them is, why are you doing this? What are you doing here? What is this about for you? Right? Are you trying to become a multimillionaire? And that's the underlying reason for a lot of these folks. They just aren't comfortable enough to say it out loud. But when you look at what they've built and how they operate, you're like, yeah, you're in it for the money. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
Right? That's fine. But as a CEO, founder, owner, there's a lot more to it than just making money, right? Especially once you've got an employee or 10 or 100 or 1,000, right? You are now all of a sudden ultimately responsible for all of those employees and all of the people that those employees have responsibility to, their family, their kids, all of that. That's sobering, right? So when I walk into an organization, I want to know who I'm dealing with. And, when I see a founder or an owner who is working in the business every day and doesn't have 5 minutes to spend thinking about how do I grow the business? How do I work on the business instead of in the business? Then I know that we've got work to do, right? And for some founders, they cannot ever make that transition from working in the business to working on the business. I mean, I had a client last year, great company, very good at what they did, 25 years, experience, just great crew of people. And they were stuck at a certain revenue level because the CEO was the terminus for half of the work streams in the company. Things couldn't be marked completed until he took a look at it and he said yes, and he said it can move on to the next step. So he became the ultimate bottleneck for the company. And I just told him straight up, I'm like, let's just call him Bob.
Yeah.
It's like, Bob, you're the problem. And I don't mean that in a pejorative way. I mean, you because of who you are and because of the control that you feel you need to have over these things and your actual care and concern, you are actually stymieing the growth of this company. You need to delegate. You need to be comfortable with the idea that these people that you've hired, these really, really smart, wonderful people that you've hired and trained and supported all these years, they know what they're doing. Trust them to do what they got to do. He couldn't do it. And as a result, he just closed out another fiscal year where they grew like 4%.
Yeah. It is. It's frustrating, right? To see it and like, look, I know what you can do. And, your biggest value is strategic relationship building and strategic vision and, getting out and talking to people and clearing the way for your teammates to be successful and all that kind of stuff. It's
it's interesting, Mark, because we're living in a moment right now where the job of a CEO, top level executive, owner, founder, has never been more consequential to the ultimate success or failure of the business. And for one reason only, we're living in a technological moment right now where unless you are educated, have a firm, grounded point of view and opinion, you are not ready to make the decisions that you need to make as a founder right now. And that's because of AI. I mean, AI is, you and I are old enough to have lived through several of these, what I'll call tidal wave moments of technology change. But we've never seen one like this before. The closest thing that I can equate it to is when these things came on the scene 15, 16 years ago and everybody started bringing them to work and connecting them to the network.
Yep.
There was about a year where it was a Wild West and nobody understood the risk surface that this represented. Eventually they caught on and then the pendulum swung the other way. Remember, it was like, you can't bring this to work. You can't even connect this to the corporate network because we don't know what might happen. That was a rational, reasonable response in that moment. Didn't stop what happened. Everybody continued to find ways to connect it to stuff. And eventually the vendors came along and got with the program and were like, okay, we need to give businesses some tools and capabilities to manage this thing because everybody's bringing them to work now. Yeah. And the companies were like, well, wait a minute, this is actually good because if they got their corporate email on this thing, then I can talk to them 24/7, right? They're always available if they got this thing in their hand,
right? Yeah.
Right? It's good for the company, right? So there was enough impetus and upside potential for them to figure it out and then ultimately spend money on solutions that allowed them to safely bring those things into the company. We're at that exact same moment right now with AI. The difference is that the scale of the problem is orders of magnitude larger than when the cell phone thing happened. And the threat surface is massive. And most companies, I'm talking your 80% of companies out there, 300 employees or less, they don't have a clue.
Yeah.
They don't have a clue. And because they don't have a clue, they're missing out on the massive benefits that they could be realizing for their companies, for their people, for their customers via this amazing technology that's out there. It's something I talk to founders about every day now. And
yeah, I agree. It's a conversation with every circle we host of how are you using AI? What are you doing with AI? How do you implement AI? How do you make those implementations successful? All that kind of stuff. Yeah, I agree. Monty, I think you and I could talk for another couple of hours,
totally.
which we may at some point. But as we wrap it up, do me a favor. Would you share more about what an engagement with Aspire 6 looks like, and how can people get a hold of you?
Sure. Well, you can find us online at aspire6.com. So that's the words, no numbers in that, aspire6.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Monty Fowler. Check me out. The best way to engage with us is book a time with me. If you think that there's something that could be done better inside your organization, you're not sure what it is. And certainly if you're sitting there in the evenings stewing about this AI thing, what does it mean for my company? I know my people are using it, but I'm not really sure what it means and what's the risk. Go to our website, book an hour with me, and I'll spend an hour talking to you about it. I'll try not to scare you, but you're definitely going to walk away understanding why this matters and what you might need to do next. What we're doing with our clients right now is we're suggesting if you don't know what to do with AI, do two things. First of all, go talk to the lowest level person in your organization that is customer facing. I guarantee that person is using at least one, if not multiple AI tools to do their job. And they're seeing tremendous productivity gains and benefits as a result of it. You need to know that as a founder. The next thing you need to do is you need to figure out who else is using this stuff in my company and what is the risk profile of that. And for that, unless you've got a knowledgeable person in-house, you're probably going to need some help with it. So that's where somebody like me, my company Aspire 6, where we can help. We can come in and we basically set up a mini center of excellence focused on AI to help you understand where are you using it, what's it doing for your business today, what's the threat vector on it, what potential risks are there for you, but most importantly, deciding once and for all, hey, these are the parts of our business that we can enable with AI. And let's find some tools and let's figure out how to do it and let's document it and actually start delivering value with it. Because otherwise, you're going to be at the mercy of the people who are doing the majority of the work in your organization. They are bringing these tools to work with them. They are. And you're probably paying for it on their expense account and you don't even know it. And your IT people don't know it. And they're connecting it to things that they probably shouldn't be connecting it to without your knowledge and explicit consent. You need to know that. You need to know that. It would be just like if you had a warehouse and there was a little fire burning in one corner of your warehouse. You need to know about that because the whole warehouse could go up in flames.
Yeah.
So
that's great advice. I love that. I love that tact of just get to lowest common denominator and let's figure out how we can start to improve. And AI as a whole becomes very intimidating, right? Yes, we got to implement AI. What does that mean? I have no idea, but we've got to do it, right? So let's simplify it and start building upon where we can do it.
And Mark, that's one of the problems is that the founders, the CEOs, the people at the top of the organization are the least educated and the least comfortable with these tools. That's on y'all. You need to go spend a couple hours a week just playing with the stuff. Figure out what it can do for you. And then you'll have a much better understanding of how it can benefit your company. But in order for you to make great strategic decisions about this technology, and you're going to have to do that in the next 6 to 12 months. Period, full stop. I don't care if you've got a taco shop on Main Street or you're running a Fortune 5 company. You have to figure this out. It is on your plate now. It is an active to-do item for you. Spend some time learning about this stuff. There's plenty of resources out there. And here's the beautiful thing. Just sign up for one of these tools, Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, and ask it. Tell it who you are. Tell it what you do. Tell it about your company. And then say, how can I use this? How can this make me better? It will tell you.
I love it. I love it. Monty, this has been a blast. Thanks so much for hanging out.
My pleasure, man. Anytime.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right, y'all, we've done it again. We found another amazing leader to share insights for you as the CEO or on your journey to the CEO seat. As we wrap up, I want to remind you that Igniting the CEO Within is sponsored by Quaid, a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. Quaid has created Launchpad, which provides an opportunity for experienced fractional executives to become licensed circle directors and significantly impact the lives of CEOs and entrepreneurs. To find out more, visit quaidcircle.com. Until next time, keep igniting that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge. Thanks for listening.